Commissioners rescinded their resolution in support of the proposed 249 extension on May 13th. Commissioners Randy Krieger, Precinct 2, Pam Binky of Precinct 4, and J.R. Green of Precinct 1 voted to withdraw the resolution since a toll road was not part of the resolution they previously signed. Texas Department of Transportation does not have a finalized plan in place, and the majority of county residents that have commented on the project are opposed to it.
Action to rescind the resolution supporting the 249 corridor.
Before we get into discussion about rescinding the resolution, I would like to take this time to make the motion that we table this discussion today until our next court date to possibly look at amending the resolution. When we originally signed the resolution, we all thought safety, mobility, and enhanced economic development was priority. And I know that we still believe and consider these points to be valid because there's been so much discussion throughout the community about it. In its conceptual design, we knew it would, we didn't know at that time it would definitely be a toll road. And from my understanding, the option is still there for a no-bill road. But we can amend the resolution. We can urge our state legislators, our leaders, to find a way to make this a state-funded highway and project and stop creating toll roads throughout this great state of Texas. We can amend the resolution to let TxDOT and our citizens know that we are not totally opposed to the idea and the need for new roads, new infrastructure. We have to look at change. There's no question about change coming. It's how we make the change. Even though we are this far in the process, it's not too late for us to put some weight on TxDOT to be more transparent and to continue to have conversations with this community about all of the issues on both sides of the table and their future plans for this community. We need to work jointly with the 391 Commission, this court, community committees, and the working group to, as we said in the earlier resolution, as expeditiously as possible, investigate and make adjustments to the recommended routes. If it is imminent that 249 is coming, we will proceed. If it's imminent that it's going to proceed through Grimes County, we want them to know we're just not here to rubber stamp their plans for this county and for funding of future highways. We need to continue to work for solutions. Therefore, I'm asking our commissioners, this court, to consider looking at the possibility of amending the resolution.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Walker that we put this on our future agenda to amend the resolution rather than to rescind the resolution.
I'd like to have some discussion on that possibly.
Yes, we can discuss it at this time.
When I, along with Commissioner Pinckney, when we made the request to have this placed on the agenda, one of my concerns is the resolution that we adopted. Nowhere in that resolution did it state the word toll road. And I'm looking at the letter that Sarah Porpita sent to the court, and she accurately states that the resolution contained the word for safety, mobility, and enhanced economic development opportunities are priorities for the region to assure a high quality of life and strong future for its residents, employees, and visitors. The continued development of 249 between Pinehurst and Navasota will support the local, regional, and statewide goals to improve safety and regional connectivity and increase economic development opportunities. And that was the reason that I felt like that we needed to go back and study this, because the exact wording says between Pinehurst and Navasota. And right now we don't have a plan from TxDOT bringing this project to Navasota or to Highway 6. We've got it stopping 5 miles short without any without giving us any information about where the project plans to go from there. Also, the fact that, after the fact that TxDOT came back to us and said, this is our plan based on what we can do with the shortest route because of the economics of what it costs to build a road, and that they cannot utilize any existing state roads and develop them into toll roads, that those roads are already, I guess, belong to the people of the state of Texas. So they can't take that road and make it into a toll road. So their plan was to develop the new route, but we still don't have a defined route. We don't have and again, a lot of this is based on conjecture and people saying it's going to come through my property. I've had people contacting me from as far down south as, the county line, saying, on the south end of the county, saying that they were going to be affected by it. We've got people that are speculating that it's going to cut right through the heart of subdivisions and those kind of things. And TxDOT has not given us a defined plan. Our support of the resolution was based on the fact that the word toll road was nowhere in that resolution, and that it was to, again, to increase the economic development opportunities for the county. And so far, I don't see where we're being able to see the benefits of that. And all I'm asking is that the resolution that we supported were based on those facts, and until TxDOT can come forward with those facts and show us a defined route, show us the economic benefits to the county, show us where exactly point A, where it enters the county, and point B, where it intersects with Highway 6, which was the original goal and plan of the proposal all along. And until we look at all of the economic studies of using existing roadways, existing railroad right-of-ways, I just feel like that we bought into a program that's not what we're being sold now. And so that was why I recommended that we rescind the resolution. I'm not opposed to being open-minded to look at possibly amending it to say that we would support the resolution if and when TxDOT brings us a defined plan. Right now, we signed off on something that was just a bag of groceries, and we don't know what was in there.
I just have to make one comment as a member of the working group, because I attended a lot of meetings that I wasn't invited to, because my whole attempt was to get the information out to the public. When you send in your activity forms, many people said, we support the roadway, but use as much existing roadway as possible. When they said it used as much existing roadway as possible, TxDOT did that. That's why it stops at 105. That's why it doesn't encumber the county any more than it does. My whole concern was based on health and safety. Economic development comes with every roadway improvement. The activity form stated, we want you to use as much existing roadway as possible. Is the reason there was no straight connectivity to Highway 6, because they wanted to make it the least invasive roadway as possible. And 15 miles is definitely less invasive than 20 to 25 miles. For that, I am grateful that they have done that. Yes, I've always stated I don't want it to be a toll road. We stated that at every meeting. And to amend the resolution to say we don't want that, I think would be a reflection of what a lot of the people in Grimes County understand. We need connectivity, but they don't want the toll road. And I think that would be something that would express the desire and the concern of all the people and citizens of Grimes County.
I agree. Yes, Commissioner Krieger and I discussed this back and forth and talked about a defined plan. We also talked about environmentals. They're looking at a really wide area of environmentals at this time. So, I mean, like Mr. Knath said, there's a rumor out there that it's gonna go a different way. When I asked the question, is this the only, well, no, we might move it, or, what are we gonna do about Highway 105? Well, we'll see when it comes up. That was the comment yesterday. We'll see what happens as the traffic increases onto 105. Well, I don't know how many people drove 105 during the construction of the new passing lanes, but it was horrendous to try to get down 105 while they were adding into those turning lanes. Yes, it does work good now, but also you talk about making amendments. There is an idea to do a letter to TxDOT to get some better answers, more defined answers, according with that defined plan. That's why I, same as Commissioner Krieger, asked that this be on to definitely rescind the resolutions we have now. If we want to come back and say, okay, we've got a more defined, the environmental's this, because if you move it 100 feet one way or the other, you're adding in another 40 or 50 properties that will be affected. And I understand people saying, well, a lot of that's agriculture, we'll bring it into, more defined, or county will receive more money. But at this time, in my heart and in my gut, do not agree with this plan as it's been presented by TxDOT. I represent half of Navasota like you represent half of Navasota. But then I represent a lot of the other people that are affected by this too. And I think that everybody is affected by it. It doesn't matter if you live in Commissioner Green's precinct or, you're gonna be affected by it. Whatever happens here is also gonna be affecting up there too. That's my whole purpose in asking for this resolution to be rescinded. Now, if we'd like to put it back on for something better, let's rescind this one, and then, if we ever decided to come back with a different proposal, then I'm willing, I'm open-minded enough to do that also.
We can still make this resolution reflect the ideas and opinions of both sides of all of the citizens in this community. Before we rescind, let's take a look at putting in that we are not in support of toll roads. But we all know from the beginning, all of the discussions that were being held, tolling was always an option. You asked TxDOT in the resolution to develop, fund, and construct improvements. It's not necessary to totally rescind this this resolution that's being presented. Everybody's affected by this all over Grimes County. But we want to make sure that we represent all of the citizens of Grimes County.
I've been going to TxDOT meetings since probably the year 2000. It's been called everything from the Aggie Expressway to whatever it is now. And since the first one I went to in Plantersville 12, 13, 14 years ago, it's been the same thing. It's been, well, we're not sure, but we are sure. And when I sell real estate, so I was involved in the south end of the county a lot at that time. And some of my clients wanted to know, how's this going to affect my property? And I said, we can't get a line. We can't get, nobody knows where it's going to go. And if it's a limited access highway, I can see where it's for the good of economic development, but if it's a limited access highway and you can't get to your property coming and going, it benefits you none if you're the property owner. It doesn't do you any good at all. I think TxDOT has had plenty of time to come up with a plan, whether it's to expand 1774, which they say they don't have the money for, or 105, which they say they don't have the money for. Now we're on a 2-lane toll road, and if you're on a 2-lane toll road and you have an accident on it, you're not on a toll road anymore, you're just stopped. If you're on a 2-lane road of any kind and you have a bad accident, you're not going anywhere. So we're going to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on a road that's subject to one accident, shutting it down all day. So there's just things. There's things that need to be clearer on this, and I think personally TxDOT's had plenty of time, but they don't care what I think, and they don't really care what some of you folks think. Along with Commissioner Finke and Kruger, and rescind this and back up and just get a new. The people of the county are telling us too. Let me just state this: the majority of the people at the county in the two meetings I was at when TxDOT held their meetings at the fairgrounds, the majority of the people down there by a landslide said they do not want this coming through their part of the county. They do not want it. We work for the people of the county, and I'm not smart enough to tell you, Brad, or you, Mrs. Hughes, what's good enough for you, what I think is good for you, and you just have to live with it. I'm sure that the city of Navasota has done some tremendous things down there in the last few years. They've turned the city into a beautiful. One of the things that scares me the most about that is what if? What if they bypass you folks? What if they don't feed into the town there and you lose everything that you've worked for all these years? The what if there, because where you say TxDOT has said, no, they're not going to do that, when they had the town hall meetings there in Plantersville and they had their maps out, and I finally just asked one night, I said, best case scenario, fellas, when do you stick a shovel in the dirt? Oh, I don't know, 10 years or so, best case scenario. So here we are 10 or 12 years later and we're talking about it still, but we're not close to putting a shovel in the dirt. But we do need to know that it's going to affect and help everybody in the county, not just
Can I just
a total.
reflect on one thing that you said, because I know Commissioner Krieger and I worked very, very hard along with a lot of other working group people. And the main focus was not to displace anyone. That's why the widening 1774 was not going to work, because there are businesses and homes all down 1774. You were going to have to displace people as well as businesses. The fact that if it were going into Plantersville, 350 feet wide, it would wipe out Plantersville. There would be either have to be an overpass built over Plantersville, or you would wipe it out completely. Nobody wants that. That's why, even though it is heartbreaking that it has to go through properties, it will not displace or destroy as much that way as if it goes down the existing right-of-ways, because they don't have enough right-of-way. They will have to buy right-of-way. And it's not that to be insensitive. You know there has to be connectivity, especially since it's funded all the way to 1774 by the Houston Toll Road Authority. It's going to be there. And my concern, when you let that many people just start going on any direction and find the fastest route, that we're not going to endanger the lives of people in Grimes County. As I've said in the paper, and I'll express again, I understand the emotions. My mother and daddy had the same problem, having to split their property to put the loop around Navasota. But we would not be able to have the traffic go through the middle of Navasota that we have going on the bypass on 6. We have to prepare for the future. And that is what, even though it's painful, somebody's got to do it. And it's sad that it's us. But that's what we were elected for, was not to look at the moment, but to plan for the future. So that we have this roadway in place, or the more people that you don't build it, as he said, it's been going on 30 or 40 years, you're going to displace more people. It becomes more and more confusing. So I'm just saying that to throw the baby out with the bathwater, to say, no, we don't want it, when we know that we need it. Everybody said, yes, we need it, but we don't want it to be a toll road. Then say, okay, let's amend it. Let's say we agree, we need this roadway, but we want you to consider our resolution to be amended to say, we want this to be a state highway and not a toll road. I think the impact would be more evident by not saying we don't believe this anymore and change our mind that we don't need the roadway. No, we still need it, but we want you to spend the money. And that's the only thing I'm asking this court to look at, is not say we don't need the roadway, because everyone knows without connectivity to 1774 to 6, we're going to have a disaster, or the 105 that goes into 6. It's going to be a nightmare with all the people trying to find their way to Highway 105 when they leave the 1774 exit, because that's funded and it is, the ground is broken and it is coming. That's all I'm asking, that we consider the amendment of this resolution, so we let them know, yes, we want the roadway, but we don't want it to be a toll road.
Take the time to consider reworking this resolution to reflect this community and our ideas for the state of Texas. That's all I'm asking, is that we look at amending the support.
I'm saying that the basis of the resolution was to enhance economic development opportunities and to, and also the continuing development of 249 between Pinehurst and Navasota. And as of right now, we don't have that. We do not have that in front of us. We have a lot of conjecture, and we have a lot of, a lot of stuff that are still out there that are wide open. And so when we adopted the resolution, we adopted it because, again, of safety, mobility, and enhanced economic development. And I'm saying until TxDOT brings us a defined plan and says this is what our plan is for this project, that we're accepting something that we don't know what we're getting. And so there again, that's the reason that I asked to have this put on the agenda today. And I don't have a problem with coming back in the future and proposing a resolution. But until they can give us a positive plan and tell us exactly what the future of this is and how it's going to connect to Highway 6, stopping it right in the middle of 105 and saying now we don't know where we're going to go from here and we don't know what we're going to do with that traffic, is no different than saying when it gets to 1774 and there's a bridge across 1774, we can't have those cars driving off into that bridge, piling up there. I mean, they've got to go somewhere. We worked very, very hard to try to get County Road 302 and 304 in the shape that it's in right now. And if we stop that, if we dead end it right there, then the additional traffic on 105 and 1774, as well as our other county roads, could be devastating to us. We need to have a plan in place, and we don't need to think about today. We need to think about, again, 5 years down the road. And until TxDOT can come to us and say, we've got the environmentals in place, we know where we can go and where we can't go. We did a lot of research and a lot of study with that group to pinpoint cemeteries, different types of things that were through that into the county that we didn't want to have to affect. And when TxDOT took our plan and came back to us and said, okay, we appreciate your work, but here's what we can do based on our funding. That's not that was not our goal when we sent it to TxDOT, for them to come back and say, okay, here's the best we can do with what you gave us. We need to do more.
This is why I'm asking that we stay at the table and talk through this resolution, because you were there. You've been working with this group before it was the working group. We've asked for things for using existing roadways, and I think that TxDOT has heard some of our pleas from the working group. I've heard you say that this resolution brought us to the table, and I don't think that we just really need to rescind it, but I think that we need to stay at the table, amend it, and get them to take a look at what we're talking about. Get them to take the opportunity to tell us that from the beginning that they thought since that the environmental studies and people coming to them, showing them what's here, what's there, they've listened. So let's give them an opportunity to continue to listen. Amend the resolution is all I'm asking.
If we rescind it, I'm not saying that we're gonna back off completely away from it. That's not what the rescission is.
Well, what is the
The
rescission?
rescission is that we don't agree with where they're going.
Well,
and-
what's
and
wrong
we-
with
we need-
stating we're not
Well,
agreeing, in
then we come
agreement?
back with, because I don't see how we can amend the resolution as we have it and state those things in that resolution to,
So
I
you're
think we
saying
need
the
to come
whole
back.
resolution
I
is
think
no
we need to come
good?
back, no. I'm just
Okay.
saying that we need to come back, rescind it as it is now, and then add to, we can come back with another one, just like Commissioner Krieger just said. We possibly could come back. You were talking about a letter and
Possibly.
things like that. You know, there's all kinds of things in the works, just like TxDOT has things in the works. But we need to come up with a more defined plan, using Commissioner Krieger's words, defined plan, to know where things are going. Because I don't know anybody in this room that was part of, maybe Mr. Paskett remembers when the bullet train was gonna go through. That was gonna bring economic development to the county. How? It never was gonna even stop anywhere in this county. The Trans-Texas Corridor was gonna bring, you know, I mean, I know the Trans-Texas Corridor is not dead by any means, but, you know, if we're gonna have economic development, we're gonna need to know exactly where a definition is, you know, where the off-ramps are gonna be, how can we sell things to other places or to businesses or get people to move here for those reasons.
But that
That's just-
resolution states all of that. And to me, the impact is made when you say, we are going to amend this to say. And that's when you're saying, we do believe this. But we're going to amend our resolution to read, with the addition of the amendment of the no toll road, of, defined line. I hate to say anything about defined line because they really do have more environmentals to do. And I know that anyone that even deals with accounting and our decisions that we have to make, that are postponed and postponed and postponed because of requirements, know that things take forever. But I do think the most important thing about this resolution is whether it's a toll road or not a toll road. Because I don't, and that's what, to me, you make a statement when you say, okay, it's not that we're changing our mind that we need it. We're saying, we can't, when it comes down here to this last paragraph, which Mr. Krieger pointed out, to develop, fund, and construct improvements along the 249 corridor. We don't want you to toll road it. We want you to develop it, but we do not want you to toll road it. Because personally, I do not want it to displace businesses and people along 1774 to enhance 1774, because that would be devastating to the owners of businesses and the people that live right along that highway. But other than that, we are gonna have to do something.
I don't think it's any more devastating to those people than it is to the people that are along the proposed route as it is now. I mean, everybody has to, but until, to stand up and say, I support something, and then not to have it, then for their plan to come back and not be what they told us it was going to be, until we have a defined area, until we have all of the economic studies done, until we have all of the cost analysis done of the different routes, and until we have a point A to point B where it's going to connect to Highway 6, whether they bring us a plan today and say this is the proposed expansion in the next 5 years or whatever, our whole purpose for getting on board with this thing, and I'll tell you, Judge, this goes back for me as a personal project about 14 years ago when my family and I built the Wrangler Steakhouse. One of the biggest impacts of where we decided to put that business was based on what TxDOT had, and I spent hours and hours and hours in the Houston Division office down there going back through all the old reports, and everything told us that the first easy access ramp was going to be right there at Highway 90. And we looked at probably 10 different locations before we built that business and invested our hard-earned time and money to bring something to Grimes County. And it was based off of where 249 was going to intersect with Highway 6. The Highway 90 interchange was going to be the first place for people to get off of this thing. And we felt like that was going to be a huge factor in where we built our business. So this is something that we just didn't wake up and decide that, okay, yeah, it's coming and we know about it. I mean, again, this has been on the table for years and years and years. And so I have a lot of passion for this project, and I understand what economic impact it can bring to Grimes County, as well as the city of Navasota and the industrial foundation out there. And based on the economic impact, until we know what we're faced with, I just feel like that I can't support the resolution now without TxDOT coming to us. And they told us when we signed this resolution, every one of the meetings that I've been going to for the last 3 or 4 years down in North Harris County and Tomball and Magnolia, that this was going to be a fast track project, that it was coming. And I drove 249 down there yesterday around Spring Cypress and it's coming. We know that. But until the Bryan District Office can give us a defined plan where, that we know what the outcome of this is going to be, I just can't see how we can continue to support it.
Well, Commissioner Krieger, what I don't want to do is make that determination. I want TxDOT to make that determination on data and environmentals. Because to me, the people who are affected now are no more or less important than someone that's going to be affected with any other route. That's why when somebody came to my office and looked at that map and they said, well, whose property is this? And we want, I said, I don't want names on property. I don't want to have a preference. I don't want to be the one that has to make that decision to determine that you're more important, your property is more important, and you're less important.
Well, who do you want to make that decision, Judge?
TxDOT.
That's what I'm saying.
That's their job.
Until TxDOT brings that to us
TxDOT
and tells
makes
us
that decision, but are you gonna say we don't support it because, no, I don't like the decision you made? Because basically, that's what they're doing right now. They're doing their environmentals, they're making their decisions, and they are going to determine where it goes. Because I'm not Solomon.
But when they bring
I
that
can't
back
sit
to us,
there.
when they bring that back to us and say, okay, here is our defined route, then I think it's up to each one of the members of the court to make their decision whether they're going to support it or not.
In talking with TxDOT, I've talked with Roger Bill, we've contacted Mark Williams, and the Bryan District Office, Catherine Hale. I asked, and I posed those questions, where is this road going in the future? She assured that it terminated at 105, and that if it necessitated widening to accommodate more traffic for our citizens to be safer along 105, that they would do that in the future. I think that all along, TxDOT has been listening. TxDOT is still listening. But to say that we don't support new infrastructure, I just can't just put that out there. I need to, I think that we, as a court, all of those points you make available, but to rescind this resolution to me seems like we're a little bit unstable. We put our support out there, then we take it back. And we put it out there again in a different way, and we take it back. We can't keep going back and forth.
I'll also
So
say that if we support a resolution, if a group or an entity comes to us and asks us to support a resolution, and we support that resolution, and after the meeting, then they either change their direction or they take a different approach to the resolution that we passed, that we ought to have the right to say, no, that's not what we agreed to. We agreed to, again, safety, mobility, and enhanced economic development opportunities. The continued development of 249 between Pinehurst and Navasota. Right now, we have we don't have those things in front of us. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have the support of the local, of the regional, and the goals for improved safety and regional connectivity. I don't see how we have that in front of us right now. We have a project that we know approximately where it's going to come into the county, and we have a project that says this is where we're going so far. Until we have the end result, I just don't feel like that the resolution that we accepted is what we have in front of us today.
But you asked them on the resolution to develop. So if they're still developing, this resolution still states that. You just said it yourself, and working with the working group, you're saying that they're still doing all the studies, that we don't have a defined. But you asked them in this resolution to develop it. And it looks as if we're developing.
I think TxDOT's on record is saying that they're not building this road without it being a toll road, aren't they?
Correct.
And they say that they wouldn't do
Correct.
1774, 105.
Get
No, I mean, I sit there,
It's
Brett,
far
I
back,
listen
I
to
can
them.
see that option was always there. Totally, as far back, I have paperwork right here that said the option was always there.
What I'm saying is, he's saying, TxDOT said at one of the meetings I went to, that that's the only way this project can be built, is to be a toll road.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
TxDOT is telling us that they can't take an existing state highway and make it into a toll road. But they have still not come back to us and given us the economic impact and the cost of what it would take to go right beside the 105. And I know, with the exception of the intersection at 362 and Grassy Creek, that by everything that we can see, TxDOT has enough right of way on 105 to continue to add these extra 2 lanes or 4 lanes or whatever as a Super 2 right there with what they've got already, with the exception of that intersection of 362 and Grassy Creek. And that's gonna affect a lot less people. We need to be able to see what we're getting when we put our name on something and say, okay, and yes, we supported the economic impact of those things, but now's the time for us to tell TxDOT, yes, we ask you to develop a plan and bring it back to us. We haven't seen that plan, so until we see the plan, we're gonna rescind our resolution until you bring us the plan and lay it in front of us and say, okay, here's what you get. I know when I look at a menu, what I expect when I order something, and then when they bring it to the table, if that's not what I expected to get, well then I don't think that, that's not part of my agreement with the people. I think that we need to have them. The time is up for TxDOT. They need to have us a plan that they can bring to us now and say, okay, you asked us to develop a plan, here's our plan, and we ask you to support this.
I think that you've been working with them quite some time. Like you say, you've been passionate about this, and I know that you are. And I really believe in a different atmosphere and a different time that the wording of this resolution would not be such an issue.
And I have to apologize because Catherine Hale asked me if she should come today. And I told her that unless she knew some definite alignments, that I didn't think that her presence would make any difference. And but they are willing to come and speak to the court about question and answers. But like I say, I don't think they have all of them, because she couldn't assure me that she could define a definite alignment. But she did call me yesterday and asked me if she needed to be here. But like I say, unless she had answers to the questions, I didn't feel it would be effective for her to take the time to come. But we can schedule her at a different time to come and define and answer questions that y'all think that y'all might need.
Maybe that would give us some time to look at amending the resolution. When TxDOT, have them here at the next meeting. Have them, put on the table what their future plans are, as much as they know.
That's the problem, isn't it?
As much as they know.
That's the problem. You're asking us to buy into something that nobody knows what we're getting and that they can change. With their options that they list, they can change it.
But when they're here, we can, at that point, ask the questions. If we don't get the answers, then say, hey, you can play again.
No, you can't. No. You can rescind this resolution, maybe I'm wrong with this, but in my mind, you can rescind this resolution and just go back to the drawing board with it, can't you, Commissioner Finke?
That's all I'm asking about.
That's what I would want to do.
Reword it.
I'm not
I'm
talking
not saying
about killing the
rescind it,
economic
take
development
it
of
back.
Grimes County. I'm talking about, since they sold us something here that wasn't on the menu.
Yeah, we didn't know. You had people on the working group that were supposed to represent Grimes County. You had a representative of the 391 Commission who has been meeting with the constituents to say that he is asking for more community support. He wants to know their ideas. He in turn could then take those ideas and letters to TxDOT. You have good representatives, I think, that are working with TxDOT. We just need to continue to work with
I think we had good
TxDOT.
representatives at the last meeting out at the county facility when the majority of the people out there, the last two
I don't
meetings I
think
went to.
that's the whole majority of Grimes County. You heard from the people
That
in
it
the area
affected.
that was affected
Yeah,
most,
well.
but you have a lot of support for this road that maybe is not as loud as our citizens who is going to affect the most, but they are still in support of the road. All I'm saying is let's look at both sides of the issue, before and the against, and amend this resolution to reflect that.
I think,
There are a lot of people in support of this road also.
I think Representative Colcourse stated, I think I'm quoting her right, she said, there's bound to be some money somewhere to do this. And so if that's the case, then let's see if we can find the money somewhere and do this project, but
That's
the
what
toll
I'm
road.
saying, state funded highway.
And she said that there's bound to be money somewhere to develop this and bring this through the county somehow without it being a toll road.
That was in Plantersville.
I'm not opposed to coming through Grimes County with improvements. I'm all for the improvements. I'm opposed to a toll road.
We can amend it to state that.
Or we can rescind it and start over.
It's very difficult to start over again when we're already at this point in time. It would be much easier to amend than to start over.
I'd like to make the motion that we amend the resolution.
Motion made by Commissioner Walker that we amend the resolution, come back next meeting and possibly, well, she didn't say, just amend the resolution. Well, I do have the authority and the right to vote, so I am going to second that motion. All in favor say aye. All opposed by no.
No.
A tiebreaker.
On to the next, and I think God took care of the next two.
Are they gonna amend, are you gonna?
I would like to present a motion that we rescind the resolution supporting the 249 corridor.
There's another motion on the floor in part of that amendment to rescind the resolution supporting the 249.
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Finke. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against by no.
No.
No and no. Next on the agenda, consider and take action regarding the burn ban.
We didn't finish that.
Motion passes.
Motion passed. Thank you.
3, 2.
Very, very happy over what happened here today. It's a good first step, but we still have a lot of work to do. And we need to get TxDOT to come back to the table and give our commissioners and our 391 Commission a definitive plan on what they're going to do throughout Grimes County so that we can go back to the citizens and let them know this is what's coming our way.
Is your advisory group talking with 391?
Yes, I've been communicating with Randy, and we're working out a draft letter that he can submit to TxDOT so that we can bring TxDOT back to the table where they can give us the cost analysis and the definitive plans on why they chose the particular route that they're taking so that we can do our own assessment on what we think is best for Grimes County, give them our recommendations, and then between the two entities work out what's going to actually take place. They haven't even completed the environmental study for the segment coming from 1774 in Pinehurst through Montgomery County to 1774 in Grimes County. So we're a long ways off on receiving any information on environmental studies.